Well, hello, how's it going? Welcome. This is June 19th. This is the RambleCast. I'm Cody Toombs, your host, and with me I've got a Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
So, wow. I don't know. What's happened? What's happening? What's special?
It's really hot outside.
It's toasty here. Not hot, but we're in the 80s. You know, it's
Oh, by the way, can you hear my fan at all? I don't. I forgot to ask.
very faintly.
Okay.
Like not enough
It's
not enough that it matters.
it's probably gonna stay on then.
And remember there is music in the background.
Nice.
So
Strategic music placement. I see.
honestly it is 100%. I don't deny for a second it's only there because well, okay, the music is there for two reasons. One, because we're not professional radio people, so we're not perfect at having that like constant filling of the air. Uh, we sometimes pause. We don't necessarily say everything in like perfect lined up sentences the way that a your typical like morning DJ types would just be able to talk in an endless stream.
Oh,
So
I know. I pause, Cody. I've edited my own podcast before. I know. I just sit there, brain turned off for a good 10, 15 seconds. Uh, Also, I say too much, but that's
don't we
okay.
all?
That's why Tech Tales is an edited audio podcast and not a video podcast or a live podcast or any of those other formats. It is so edited. You have no idea. I've
It's
made
true.
Cody say a lot of things strung together, different words. That's
This
what
is
he
actually
doesn't
true.
listen to it, so it's fine. He doesn't know.
This is also true. Though I think I did catch you doing that once. Um anyway, so believe me, I'm very aware of how much I say and I hate it. That being said, this is a live video podcast. So
The people know what they're coming here
courage.
for. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You signed up for it. You click the stream
That I do. That I did. Something. I don't know.
that they did.
Hey, they're the suckers watching us. So,
Yeah. Speaking of suckers,
ooh.
who's buying a laptop?
Show of hands. Who wants a laptop that does not have AMD, Intel, or a Qualcomm? It's a thing. It's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing. Framework. It's the company that they made some phones, right? That was their thing.
No, no, they
Oh,
just made they made a modular or not modular, more upgradable than normal laptop.
okay.
That's been their main thing. So I think the new news, and I know you need to put it in the chat so I can read it, but I
Ah,
believe the new thing is they will sell a motherboard for their laptops with a RISC processor in addition to their existing options for motherboards with like Intel and AMD chips. Um, so this is kind of cool. I think, as far as I know, like I know what you were probably thinking of was Pine 64
yeah, I totally was.
because they've made Linux laptops with mostly they make ARM stuff, but they have also made a few devices with RISC processors. So I don't know if I've heard of any that aren't like Pine 64 or this that are like real laptops. There's a lot of like other projects that are like I've seen a few kind of like netbook or smaller type sort of hack together projects using RISC chips as like proof of concept, or you need something to like compile stuff on whatever. But this is this looks like it's just going to be a normal laptop but with the RISC chip in it. So it's kind of cool. Again, RISC is like not even remotely close to ready for normal people. But some people want this, and you kind of do have to put it out there, and that's how you get development in a better place. Like it's never going to be perfect if it just sits, as a possible design for years. So they need some actual hardware. This is definitely like I this might be the first time like it's in like a normal laptop is kind of the big thing in here. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a Linux dev or something and I want like a nice thing to test my risk stuff on, yeah, this looks good.
Yeah, and look, the practical realities are there. This isn't something that you're going to be able to like download all of your software for. You're you're gonna have a real limited experience trying to get anything out of this thing. Uh, you won't be gaming on it. You're not going to be, running tons and tons of like high-end software. You're definitely not going to be getting something like Photoshop on it, or uh, I doubt Windows will ever support this while this is still considered modern hardware. But I mean, getting Linux on it, I'm sure won't be that tough. It and actually should be easy. I'm assuming any typical open source project, as long as it's built on a reasonably high level language, probably should be fine. As long as it's
Yeah.
not a case of like, oh, you need to or sorry, as long as it doesn't have any architecture dependent code written into it, it's probably okay.
Yeah, it's the same. My understanding is that Risk Linux is basically the same in terms of usability as ARM Linux, except more of the expected OS functionality is broken. So like
Yes.
the apps will probably all the same apps will probably be there. Except I don't know if Chromium is on Risk yet, but um, a lot of the same apps will be there. But like maybe your sleep mode doesn't work, or there's like a random kernel panic sometimes because it's more experimental. But yeah, I mean, the Risk like package ecosystem on Linux, I think is okay now. So
I would imagine. Well, I would
this is
imagine it's
not a
got to be at
computer
least
for
decent.
yeah, yeah. This is not a computer for normal people.
No.
And so everyone buying this will know what they're getting into.
Well,
Hopefully,
yeah, I wouldn't go too far with that assumption, but
you never know with Linux. That's right.
yeah, it's one of those things where, in all practicality, it's probably going to be, again, usable, but not a good usable experience. Like, along the lines of, do you want to run web server on it? Do you want to run, let's just say hypothetically, Chromium? I don't know if that. I agree. I have no idea if they support this yet. If I recall correctly, and I could be off on this, I think Risk 5 is technically backwards compatible with Risk 4. I might, don't quote me on this. I could be way off on that. But if it is, there's a decent chance, actually a really good chance, that Chromium should run on it in theory. But that's, again, if it is backwards compatible. We'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, regardless, this is certainly the type of hardware an enthusiast could have a lot of fun with. It's not going to be this sort of experience you'd have with ARM right now. It's definitely not going to be the x86 experience, but it's, you could use it, and that's honestly the most important part. That's like the first step to making this a more practical thing and letting us escape from the insanity that is ARM.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's gonna be cool.
yeah. Hopefully, and I know I saw price in here. What was the price on this? Um.
There's no release date or price yet for
Oh,
the
okay.
Risk main board.
All right. Well, then I was wrong. There was not a price. But hey, at least it's in the works. It's kind of funny because Risk 5 servers as like a I'm gonna call it server as a service, basically. Being able to rent like either dedicated or virtual servers. Risk 5 only really got its first serious company doing that just like 3 months ago. So the fact that now there's a laptop that's pushing it, that's a I would say that's pretty fast positive movement. So yeah.
Yeah, and this happening at the same time as ARM is getting more steam on servers and client devices is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Now
how long until you know what we need to do now? We need to go back to I don't know how far we got with this. I want to say it was mid 90s where we had PCs with CPUs on like the PCI cards. It wasn't PCI, it was whatever was before that. But like I remember like some Intel CPUs were just boards that you'd slot in. So I think we got to go back to that now because now we gotta mix and match CPU architectures.
yes. Also, as you started talking about the 90s, one of the first things that popped into my head is, oh god, you're about to make the hackers reference where they sit they where they have a bonding moment over risk is the future. Oh jeez. Okay. I already regret that. Anyway, so in other laptop news, let's talk about the brand new wave of ARM laptops that is sweeping the benchmark nation.
Yes. So I am prepared to let Qualcomm do a victory lap because we sat here for months, and I'll speak for me. I said I need to see the real numbers here. Qualcomm was talking up a storm about its new laptop chips, but they were being very cagey about pretty important details. And then they found a lot of statistics that were like relative numbers or things that were, still not really helpful information. So I've been sitting here for months being like, I need to see the numbers. Qualcomm, you need to show me real data here before I will get excited and go out and buy a Qualcomm laptop or whatever. And I think it was yesterday or the day before was the first official day of like retail availability for all of the first Copilot Plus PCs, which right now are all using Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite chips. There are no Copilot PCs with Intel or AMD chips because they have not yet made laptop chips that meet whatever standard Microsoft has set there. So for now, Copilot Plus PC and like Snapdragon PC are the same thing. So might get used interchangeably in a lot of places. But anyway, I was on the wait and see camp for a long time, and it seems like they did it. They made a pretty good laptop chip that seems to have performance around like an M2 or M3. I know there's multiple variants of the X Elite. It's not one chip. There's different performance levels. So I don't know exactly where the benchmarks for like each of those specifically land, but they're like generally around like base M2 or like M2 Pro or base M3, like kind of roughly that range. So pretty good. Like those are really good chips. Again, my MacBook Air is still an M1. It's fine. It's very fast. But like around CPU performance there, battery life seems to be about as good as the current MacBooks, which is great. That's what I would want. Um, Seems like Windows is pretty solid on there. Um, uh, Really, the only like big catch is the thing that we were all expecting, which is that the compatibility layer for x86 software is not that seamless. There is a lot of software that's either too slow to use in there, or has compatibility issues with the layer for whatever reason. And I've run into that with some stuff with Parallels on my Macs. There's some stuff that really just doesn't want to run in that translation environment, mostly games. Um, but that was expected. Like, Microsoft can't do a lot there. That's just like, the the result of Windows being on mostly just one architecture for 40 years. There's a lot of momentum build up that now has to be diverted into other architectures. So yeah, like there are reviews for a couple out. I saw a couple reviews for the Asus one. I know the new, I think it's the new Surface Pro that's also out. I don't know if maybe the laptop is also out, the Surface laptop. But most of them are out now. There's reviews coming out. At some point, I am supposedly getting the Lenovo. I don't know if it was the Lenovo ThinkPad one. It might have been the other one. I'm getting one of the Lenovo Snapdragon laptops, so I'll get to review that. I was gonna get the Asus one, and then something happened, so I'm getting the Lenovo one instead. So, but yeah, I mean, that seems good. Seems like they did it. Um, don't know if they can remain competitive necessarily, but like, I'll give them this. This is what I wanted. I wanted a Windows laptop that had like actually good battery life, and didn't spin up the fans when I opened one single application. Uh, like I know I wrote about this when I bought my MacBook Air, but there was just such a night and day difference between like me with my brand new Surface Laptop 4, like it just being warm all the time, and sometimes it would just like not go to sleep and then get really hot on my bedstand overnight while it was charging. And I'd go to open Audacity, which, by the way, is an audio editor. It's not a video editor. It's literally audio. I've got like one track in there. I'd open Audacity, and 5 minutes later, the fans would start kicking up to full speed. Um, so selling that and getting the MacBook Air was a significant improvement for me. And now it seems like the Windows laptops are now kind of there now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm naturally going to be a little incredulous about this because we're seeing right now benchmarks. How things behave once they're really in the hands of like average Joe user, so to speak, or for that matter, in the hands of true power users.
Yeah.
These are
Well,
these are groups that'll
that's
complicate the story a little bit more once it's actually like out there.
yeah. The compatibility layer is the issue there. I know Chrome is ARM native now as of a couple months ago on Windows, so that takes care of like 90% of most Windows users, because Windows doesn't have apps, so everyone does everything in the browser, and Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and I think all the other big ones now have Windows ARM builds. So the web browser stuff is taken care of.
Sure, the browser is, and yes, for your for your truly quote unquote average person, yeah, that covers 90% of what they're probably going to do. I'm thinking along the lines of, as you start progressively climbing up the ladder of what do a lot of people do, what do some people do, what do few people do. So obviously, it'll be interesting to see how, let's say, I mean, you and I, I don't think we've actually mentioned this in quite a while, but Just think about an Artem, somebody who is like an obsessive user of way too many apps, way too many things that are probably very weird and hacky. I think of obviously software developers. I obviously also think of like video editors, audio editors. I I do kind of wonder how quickly these things are all going to pick up. What the compatibility layers are going to be able to do for them, if anything. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Also, it'll be interesting to see how games play out.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of the video reviews I watched had like a little bit of someone playing Overwatch on, I think, one of the Aces one, and yeah, I mean, there's a performance loss with the emulation, but I don't know. Like I've also been really the x86 emulation in Windows is weird because when it works, it's shockingly good. Like I would not expect it to be that good, but also sometimes it really is like wine and Proton on Linux, where like if it works, it's fantastic, but it doesn't work a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And
look,
I do think that and Microsoft even made this point this year when they released new Surface Pros and Surface laptops for business, and they were all x86. And now they have the non-business version, which is ARM. So there's definitely going to be that divide for years, where I think a lot of like IT departments are going to keep buying Intel and x86 stuff a lot, just because like it's going to work, because that's what they need it to work. The exception being whatever companies are maybe just fully transitioned to, Google Workspace and those kinds of tools were like, OS doesn't matter. It could be a Chromebook.
well, from the position of the IT department, I mean, realistically, every person in there is going to be sitting there saying, "Okay, look, I have 16 things I have to do in a given day. Do I want to turn that into 37 things, which are all going to be fixing people's problems with these laptops, or do I just want to not make my life harder?" And every IT department is obviously going to make the decision, screw it, let's just stick with x86. It's I doubt it'll be cheaper, maybe it will be, but the problems are things that they can mostly just tell people, sorry, plug it into a wall. That's what you've been doing with your laptop for years. Just keep doing that. Whereas the benefits that they would get from making a switch are, oh, great, people can be more mobile. We don't care. Like, from the IT department's position, that's not a win for them. It doesn't make their life any easier if people can be more mobile with their laptops. So yeah, that's where it kind of comes down. The other side of this, though, I have a feeling that there's probably also going to be cheaper laptops coming out of this, and some companies are going to want to make that move. Well, cheaper laptops and desktops.
I think there was a rumor that Qualcomm is working on a lower spec version of this, which I'm very interested in that. That seems like it would be also a pretty easy sell. Definitely harder now that like Intel's bottom of the barrel CPUs are fine now, but they still have
good.
They still have the there's still a battery bottleneck that like maybe hasn't been fully worked out. But yeah, definitely exciting times. I wrote a thing earlier this year that was like, this is what I'm most excited for in tech this year, is the great ARM revolution. We now have kind of a competitor to Intel and AMD in the PC space, and that hasn't been true for as long as I've had the ability to speak words, at least. Maybe a little bit after that. I know like some of like the weird x86 license holders were hanging on in like the netbook era, but that was really it. So pretty cool. Qualcomm's got these out. We're expecting at some point for Nvidia to release something. That's going to be very interesting. Supposedly, AMD is doing some ARM designs. So,
Yeah, I can.
interesting times.
I am genuinely very interested in what Nvidia does because I'm not sure if their CPU performance is necessarily going to be at the same level, but I show. Does anyone out there not think that their GPU performance is going to be off the wall? And I know they'll probably also be pushing AI pretty heavy, but set that aside for a minute or as long as possible. The GPU performance could be wild, and that could actually start a whole new. I don't want to say like a whole new generation for gaming. I don't think it's going to be like that, but I do think that it might raise a big edge for it might raise the bar, either raise the bar on gaming or lower the cost of entry for gaming, which it could be really, really cool. And if that ends up happening, yay.
I think it'd be very fun for Razer or someone to make like a gaming laptop, but it's just it's their normal gaming laptop, but it's like half as thin because it doesn't need like super crazy cooling pipes or something.
Yeah,
definitely a lot of possibilities. So, based on what I've seen, if I had to go get a PC laptop now, it would be one of these. There's still issues, but they seem like basically the same issues I have with my MacBook. So it's fine. Like, oh, I can't play all games. Darn. That's such a bummer.
Yeah,
I wonder what that's like.
Yeah. That being said, I do very much wonder if this is also, I really hate turning it into this discussion every other week, but I do wonder if this might kind of prompt or goad a lot of game studios into look, they're going to have to look at this stuff and say, all right, we need to actually start building for something other than x86 Windows. And in this instance, sure, you're just changing the architecture, you're not changing the platform. But once you're making one change, how long before you say, you know what, building for this other platform, it's really not going to take that much. Let's just do that too. Like, how long before game studios just have to sort of face up and go, all right, you know what, Windows, Mac, Linux, we're just doing all of you. And here are all the different architectures. We're just doing them all. Like, it's not crazy. Or it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have nothing else. I'm just
All right.
Other than I will eventually get one of these to review, and I might have more thoughts at that point.
Yeah. Now we also have to start the countdown to how long before this completely obliterates the peripheral market. Because so far we've yet to see anything ARM based that can do something with, let's say, a video card. Now granted, we haven't had a whole lot of contenders in the market yet. It's still relatively new comparatively speaking, but everything has been integrated into single chips, or at least single boards, with no real options for expansion. One of these days, this could become an issue. Just curious to see when it's gonna when this issue starts to work itself out in some way, shape, or form. But okay. Anyway, so do you recall what's next? That was a hint, not an actual question.
That was a bad joke.
Oh, I do not deny that for a second. It's a terrible joke, but yeah,
this was expected. So all of the Copilot Plus PCs were they're shipping with a couple local AI stuff that are using the elevated AI optimization that is in these chips, so they can do a little bit more workloads locally. And one of those features was supposed to be recall, which was a thing that takes screenshots every couple seconds and then like optical character recognition on it. Uh, the idea being you could have like a searchable timeline of your PC, so you could be like, "Hey, what time did Cody tell me to be on the stream?" And then I can put that into the search bar, and it will find where I opened my DM with Cody 4 hours ago in an app I forgot about, and it'll be there. And I personally don't think I would use something like this very much, because usually if I'm looking for something, I already know what it was in, and most of those have search features in them. So like if I'm talking to Cody, 99% chances in Discord. I can just search in Discord. But I can see this being useful in if you're like just hopping between messaging platforms and you don't know where anything is, or if you have other apps that are they don't organize their own content very well, and you kind of need a more broad, like zoomed out level. So like I can see a couple use cases for this, but it wouldn't really be something I would use all that much. And it also seems like kind of a crutch for Windows search being garbage, which not a problem on Mac. I've got great search.
Okay, so first I'm gonna take minor issue with the presumption that we are ever remotely as prepared as 4 hours ahead of stream. That's not half the time when you tell me that you can't make it. It's like an hour before stream. Though to your credit, sometimes it's 2 hours. But anyway, the other angle on that, and I don't think that this was ever actually shown off, but I do feel like this was the inevitable intention of this. That one of these days you'd be able to do something like just speak to Cortana and say, can you find this conversation? That way you don't have to click on anything, you don't have to type anything in, you don't have to look for anything. Just like, you don't even have to be sitting at your computer, you can just ask for it, and then when, like, once the computer finds it, you could go over and look at it. I've always kind of pictured that as their intended use case, so that it works a little bit like an assistant feature. And you know, obviously it could also factor in for, let's say, maybe you saw something in Slack, maybe it was on a website, maybe it was in a handful of other places. Maybe somebody posted this image and you know it's something that you want to see again, you just don't remember where, or you don't remember what Discord channel it was in, or, well, Discord server even. Then I could see it being a lot more useful.
Yeah, this would be great for finding memes, where I'm like, I don't remember what this meme was, but like I remember like one thing about it and it was kind of funny and I'd like to find it again.
Yeah, or more than once I've been trying to find topics at the last minute before starting the stream, and it's like, wait a second, there was something somebody said on one of these like 2 or 3 Discord servers. What was it? I know it was something about blank, and then I'll maybe even searching for the word wouldn't have worked, but, or the name of something, but doing something that's a little bit more of a fuzzy search using this could have worked, maybe. Anyway,
it's not happening right now.
Yeah,
because when Microsoft revealed this initially, and people started hacking into it, they realized that it just put screenshots in a folder, and basically anything can read that folder, and also basically anything can read the MySQL database, where it stored all the text. And People very quickly made like proof of concept malware that was reading everything. And even if you're, you know, lucky and you don't accidentally download a virus, there was still the issue of like, what if you're sharing a computer with other people in your house? Like, can they search what you were doing on the computer? You know, if you, so just infinite issues that came out of this almost immediately, and partially as a result of Microsoft like just not testing this at all. Like, this wasn't really, you know, usually when Microsoft does this, they put a feature in like the Canary Windows 11 channel and they test with people, and then it gets to the beta and they test with more people. This was like not tested with anyone, so all these red flags were not public. I'm sure there were a lot of people inside Microsoft that said this exact thing, but it didn't matter because we had to ship the laptops out in time. So last week, Microsoft announced a bunch of changes it was going to do to recall. They were going to lock it behind Windows Hello, so in the like whatever your like login authentication is to open it, and they would encrypt everything. And it seemed good, but they also promised it would still be out in time for the first laptops, which did not seem plausible. And it turns out it was not. They need more time. So Recall was supposed to ship on all of these Snapdragon laptops and also any of the other Copilot Plus PCs. It's not intended to work on anything else. So there was never risk of like your mom's computer from 5 years ago getting updated to run this. It doesn't do that. And now Microsoft says we are adjusting the release model for Recall to leverage the expertise of the Windows Insider community to ensure the experience meets our high standards for quality and security. When Recall becomes available in the Windows Insider program, we will publish a blog post with details on how to get the preview. So, don't know when that's coming.
Yeah. It's, yeah. At this stage, look, I'm not going to say that they're doing quite what I was predicting before, which would have been just pulling the thing entirely until everyone basically forgets about it, and then rolling it up into a bigger product that they can launch and just sort of hide that this is a thing in it. From the sound of it, they're still going to keep this what it is, but probably take all of the complaints, all of the things that people have highlighted as problems, and do everything to obscure and abstract those issues out of the way, so that maybe it just looks a little bit less like a terrible idea.
Yeah, and the Recall thing was so crazy because I've seen a lot of people in sort of my circles be like, you know, I never really like reconsidered using Windows, but this was really bad.
Yeah.
And it's important to bring up the context of normal people never heard about this in the first place. So like if you're already talking about like everyone on Earth switching to Linux, that's not the conversation we're having. But it was pretty bad that Microsoft almost rolled out a feature that let basically any app or just straight up any person with access to your computer see a complete history of what you were doing. And there have been ways to like kind of get that, you know, if you have malware that like was reading your entire Windows registry, you know, sure, it can get some stuff that way, or cache, you know, directories, whatever. Windows is not good at this in general. But like this was especially bad. And the fact that it was not tested publicly, and the first like couple days after it was announced was really bad before Microsoft like got their messaging straight, when they, you know, were telling news outlets like, no, actually it's really secure, it's fine. You know, you can only, it's only an issue if like someone gets physical access to your computer, which was just a lie, because they hadn't got their story straight about everything. So yeah, this was This was really bad, and it unfortunately puts a very it dampens the mood with all of these ARM laptops that are coming out, which is exciting, which I'm excited for. But because it coincided perfectly with this AI gold mine rush, uh, unfortunately, it's now associated with this thing that Microsoft almost shipped, um, and now needs months to fix, probably.
Yeah. Honestly, I think months would be maybe a little too generous. This could, this honestly
Yeah.
could be a bigger thing to fix.
I mean, it usually takes a couple months for anything to go through the Windows Insider testing.
Yeah.
There's a couple that I've seen in recent history that speed through. Like, I saw Windows 11 started, or Windows 10 and Windows 11. When it can make money for Microsoft, it tends to go quick, is what I've noticed. There was uh, the lock screen on Windows 10 and Windows 11 now has like widgets that are like garbage from MSN, just like the widget panel, and that went from the like testing channel to full release in like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It was pretty quick. So, and it's also on Windows 10 because again,
Money.
money. Same reason Microsoft said we're done shipping new features on Windows 10. It's done. It's staying exactly like it is. And then 3 years later,
Yep.
they were like, "Wait, we need people to use Copilot. Put Copilot in there." It's great.
Man,
I
this
like
is
my
why
Macs, by the way. I'm just saying.
this is why we really need somebody to bring back the show Silicon Valley. I'm just saying we need that show back. It's because half of the companies are really a parody of themselves, and somebody out there may as well be getting free storylines from it.
It's pretty crazy.
And even as I say that, it's making me think, man, if I just lived down in that area, I swear it'd be so much fun to just start like a web series that is nothing but sketches making fun of like the last week of stupid tech news.
I think you'd have the Onion problem, where it's like you literally can't make up something dumber than what has happened.
Oh, no, that's the thing. I'm not suggesting even making anything up. I'm saying literally just take the last week of dumb tech news and turn it into sketches.
Oh.
Like, literally don't try to top them. You can't do it. Just take it and run with it. Like, it would almost be like it, not an actual news show, but you could mock it and be kind of silly with it, but like, you don't need to top them. You just need to match them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, this is certainly something. It is a weird thing where Microsoft is in a position where this was supposed to be, you could tell this was supposed to be one of their killer features. They thought that this was going to be a thing that everyone would look at and go, oh my god, I need that now. And it turns out to be the thing that they're like, whoops, yeah, we're not launching this anytime soon because we screwed the pooch. That's a rough position to be in for what is now the second most valuable company in the world.
And it's just another case of the AI stuff going completely overboard. Because, like, what do people actually care about? Like, do they want to make ugly looking pictures on their computer? Or do they want the laptop that doesn't need to be recharged every 2 hours?
And isn't spying on them.
Well, let's not
as
go that
much.
far.
As much.
Okay. Yeah, my Mac doesn't have recall, but I do send all my screenshots to Cody for the vibe check.
It's true.
So,
and let me just say, dude, the stuff that you're screenshotting late at night.
I know that Tectel's outline looks really rough. I know. I'm working on it.
Yeah, seriously, I just don't understand how do you use the crayon font? I don't get it. Like, why is that your font? You
It helps
weird
me focus.
son of a bitch.
Every mom with a Galaxy S phone.
Oh, geez. It's great.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
bubble burst when. Hopefully more than 6 months from now, because Corbin needs a house. Corbin needs a house. Also, Corbin needs Invisalign. So keep the Nvidia money coming, please.
Meanwhile, I would like to eat. So Amazon, can you please get
Yeah.
your stock price up?
I need my fucked up teeth fixed. Cody needs food. Make it happen, guys.
And seriously, Amazon, just announce your next Prime Day, please. I want to sell this damn stock.
Don't say Prime Day. It makes me feel bad.
Oh no, Prime Day sucks. Prime Day's
I get-
crap, but they'll make some money as soon as they announce it, and then I'll sell. Anyway, well, speaking of things that are crap, but people certainly are still interested in them, RCS has turned up on iPhone. Oh my god. Things is what stuff might, just what people might have said. Just get health insurance. Thanks, Nils. No, look, I'm in Oregon, one of the few states that actually, like, if you're poor, you just get health insurance. Yay.
That's crazy. No, I literally have health insurance. It will cover like 10% of Invisalign. Like basically nothing. So
Yeah.
because it's not an emergency. My teeth aren't falling out yet, but I'd rather not get to that point. That'd be unfortunate.
Yes. But anyway.
Although I think maybe Nils said health insurance because he said speaking of crap.
Well, that's fair. That's definitely fair.
He's helping.
But yet. But yes, so RCS on the iPhone. It's in the it's not in the developer beta. Or it's not officially in the beta, but apparently people have been able to get it working. And yeah, it's apparently not a very good experience.
I need a link. I don't have this one.
Well, okay, I have the Verge link that was a comment. I didn't actually pull out the prepared what's wrong with it. Okay, so one thing that we already knew, and nobody is surprised by, is of course the bubbles are, for Android users, are still green. So, oh my god, if you message somebody and you're trying to get them to go on a date, they won't go on a date with you because apparently it's blue or GTFO, I guess. I don't know. Whatever that dumb nitwit from like 8 years ago said in a bad article. But
you're still going to get bullied at middle school for having an Android phone. I'm sorry. You can't do anything about that. Kids are cruel. But RCS, it basically does what I think, everyone was expecting, which is it raises the minimum bar to a more acceptable level for 2024. Hopefully no longer will your images be turned into the most compressed thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Your videos won't be like 15 pixels moving around. It does look like, according to this person, it does support group chats. It supports file transfers. Kind of all the like base RCS stuff. Doesn't seem to do end-to-end encryption. But I mean, works pretty much how everyone expected. Again, it makes sense that it's still a green bubble or whatever, just because like they need a way to differentiate it from normal conversations, because RCS and iMessage are not the same.
And look, I actually don't begrudge any of that aspect of it for Apple, because look, certain features actually
Yeah,
genuinely won't be available to RCS users. A lot of stuff
yeah,
having to do with like Apple Pay, um, things, in some cases, stuff related to like effects and stickers, uh, and certainly future features. I guarantee Apple is going to be packing iMessage absolutely bloated full of features after this. So understandable. I don't think it's really problematic that the bubbles stayed the same colors. Um, what I do question a little bit is how much Apple is still going to inhibit the experience. There are, at least according to this Android Authority post, which I will also link. It's linked from that Verge comment, but yeah. Anyway, there's a link to it. One thing that's noted is like read receipts. Those do not work in group chats, so that's a little bit of a thing. Apparently, they work in single chats, which is interesting.
yeah.
Um,
And this is being enabled on a initial beta of iOS 18. So
yeah,
all this is subject to change. There might be a couple more things that work when it's all done.
or those things could be broken by the
That's
time
true.
this is done. Let's never rule out the possibility of Apple being petty enough to break stuff that was working. Nevertheless, this is maybe the end of the days of evil. I mean, not really, but maybe we can finally get back to having sort of a civilized cooperative experience between the two big phone platforms rather than just duking it out over stupid stuff like messaging. That being said, please don't use this garbage. If you can, just use a real messaging service.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go on record and say use Discord. Use no, not Telegram, but wait, who's the good one still?
Signal.
Signal. Sure.
Yeah, Signal's fine. Don't use Telegram. It's run by Nazis. Um, yeah, this whole discourse has always been so funny to me because it's like everyone is wrong. Like everyone has you can. It's not possible to have the right opinion on this because you can't be like, oh, just use Signal. It's like, yeah, no one wants to do that. Unfortunately, I also wish we lived in a perfect world, but that's not the case. Or they'd be like, or it would be. I remember so vividly when I worked at Android Police. Every time me or someone else wrote an article about SMS or RCS or something, there would always be the annoying international people who'd be like, "You Americans still use SMS? We use WhatsApp.
Yes.
I don't get why this is a problem for you." And it's like, but how is Mark Zuckerberg running your telecommunications infrastructure better than this? It's not like I didn't say SMS was good, but that's not better. I don't think that's better.
I mean, it's better for Mark because he fed all that stuff into their AI system.
Yeah, it is. It is better for Mark. He got a lot of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce from that. And then you also have the lovely camp of the Apple iMessage elitist people, the middle schoolers bullying other children because they have a different kind of phone. So there's no winners in any of this discussion.
No.
It's all just really weird elitism based on what app you use to send messages.
Yeah.
There's no winner here.
Yeah, it's really needlessly hostile, very childish, very unpleasant in pretty much every conceivable way. So yeah, 100%. I don't see any value to those discussions. But what it has been interesting just watching the absolute lunacy of it. And again, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I'd like to think that this could finally just be that token bit of civility. I don't think it will be, but maybe somehow.
I mean, I would assume this at least stops some of the annoying, because like the weird elitism was always rooted in the actual fact that like if my mom sent me a video of her dog, I would get it in like flip phone video quality because it just got compressed to absolute garbage going through SMS. So if stuff like that isn't a problem anymore, then yeah, that's good. It'll probably get rid of like some of that, but yeah, it is ultimate like the people who want to be weird elitist about everything are still going to have an issue. But for practical purposes, this looks like an improvement. So I expect people will be a little bit less toxic.
I'm gonna. Okay, maybe this is just my perception of it. Maybe it's just the different stories I've heard. But I've always felt like the reason for the elitism, or the root, now the primary cause of the elitism, largely stemmed from group chats.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't necessarily like, oh, dad has an Android phone, mom has an iPhone, and when they send videos and pictures, they look like garbage. Obviously, yeah, some people cared a lot about that, and as they should. Like that was a perfectly good thing to care about. But iMessage group chats seem to be where all the real bullying and elitism sort of stem from, because you had so many people who would complain that, oh, as soon as we have an Android user in the group chat, it ruins everything. Like, all of a sudden we lose all the features. All of a sudden, like, we get notifications for no reason because they did a thing and it sends, like, weird notifications about it. Or if any of us do anything, then it breaks and we start getting messages popping up for no reason when they should be, like, reactions or whatever. Or, all of that stuff. And that, I think that's where all the elitism was coming from. And it was toxic, it was weird, it was hostile. And yeah, I mean, there's been a couple dozen things that iMessage broke with when it came to like SMS and MMS. I don't think half of that stuff is really going to be fixed here, but I think the reasons for the elitism will mostly disappear, assuming that this works the way that it looks like it should based on what's happened now. Because, I mean, all of this stuff is now part of the iMessage app. It's not being hidden away. It's not a separate app like I was joking it could have been. And yes, that was always a joke. I never actually thought that they were going to do that, though I still wouldn't have ruled it out. So as long as it's part of iMessage, as long as it works in group chats, and as long as picture and video messaging are like actually decent, I think this is okay. It's not like I think that the bullying is going to go away. I just think it's going to become this nascent thing where it happens occasionally, but so rarely no one should care about it anymore. It's still going to be a thing where, you've got the rich kids who are going to bully the poor kid kind of stuff. But I think that's about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it just raises the minimum bar. It's good. Again, I also have the wrong opinion about this, which is that I never turned on RCS when I was on Android, because at that point it was pretty buggy, and there were like issues with like it not going to the right phone, if you switch SIM cards or something, and I would do that sometimes when reviewing stuff, so I just didn't bother with it at all.
Yeah.
And I also still hate RCS. It's very stupid. I want to yell at the people who want to say it's an open standard. It's not. It's basically just Google's other messaging protocol, but they got some level of interoperability with it. We're just kind of back to like the XMPP days, but like Google has the biggest server. That's kind of like where we're at. which was also true of XMPP.
Yeah, it really was. And to be fair, Google only got to this point because they basically said, "Hey, carriers, we'll
Yeah.
give it to you. We're giving it to
Yeah.
you. Please take
Also, we're not gonna talk about the new Android 15 beta because it's boring. But you know what's not in it is still any API for apps to use RCS messages. You cannot make an RCS client. You can still make SMS clients, but not RCS.
And not only can you not make an RCS client, which honestly that needs to happen. Get on it, Big G, because that actually should happen for, you know, various regulatory reasons. But you can't even interact with RCS. But as far as I know, you can't. I don't know. Actually, okay. I will admit I don't know if you can send RCS messages, but I know you don't have any way to like tell the system I'm an app and I'm waiting for an RCS message. Like if one is coming from a specific number and it's going to have like a code in it or something like that. That's actually an API that they had in Android for a little bit with SMS. I don't know if it's actually even still working, but it was there. And how about, you know, maybe we could have that sort of thing again? It would make a lot of sense to have it. Anyway, yeah, this is stuff that it seems like it shouldn't be that hard or that confusing, but for whatever reason it is.
Yep.
And Diablo, Hangouts was almost perfect. I don't disagree with you.
Man,
it went through some phases of being very not perfect, but Hangouts really hit a lot of the right boxes.
Man, I multiple times this week I've thought of that quote from I think it was Andy in The Office, who's like, I wish I knew how to tell when it was the good times before the good times are over. And it's like, that's how I feel when I think about Hangouts like 2013, 2014, where I'm like, great, almost everyone I'm talking to is using this app, and I also was on Project Fi, which had the SMS connection. So I was like, right, most of my conversations are happening in this one thing, and it's like on all my desktops, it's got the syncing going on. It's great. Now that I'm on all Apple stuff and using iMessage some, and my iPhone texts are going through the iMessage app, it's like kind of the same thing, but this is 10 years later.
Yeah. No,
although I didn't like that Hangouts on desktop was always just a Chrome extension. That was always kind of weird, but
yeah.
Besides that, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, there were definitely some things that I thought they could have improved back then. I certainly complained about a few things. I had a lot of complaints about a lot of things, but they were pretty shallow, trivial complaints for the most part. And looking
also my favorite color is green, so I like Hangouts' design. Also, pretty good icon, I think.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, well, that's also back in the days when Google's icons were decent and not just
right.
they
were more than
mishmash
just
of
primary colors. Yeah.
Primary colors that are in poorly organized overlapping configurations. Yeah.
My favorite dinner plate icons.
Yeah, the dinner plate thing is a whole separate complaint. But yeah, I like Allo stuff introduced. Could have just been added to Hangouts. Yeah.
That is the second live stream in a row where Allo gets mentioned.
Yep. It is funny because
Allo referenced.
Yes.
I'm trying to do the. It's not doing the thing.
Come on. But wow.
Is it on?
Wow, you broke it.
I didn't turn it off. Okay, I gotta click the button. Allo mentioned.
Nice. Okay. So anyway, yeah. As much as I like that RCS is making some sort of traction, it is really weird to see how Google used to literally own this space. Like, it was theirs to lose, and boy, did they lose it. Oh, man, did they lose it. So, yeah, it's wild that one of the biggest companies out there could have basically just been the master of messaging, and they threw it all away. Which does, of course, raise back the question, who cares that much? Like, you know, it's not like they were making money off of Hangouts.
Probably a good thing that Google didn't end up being the company that owns that too. But
yeah, that's true too.
They could have done something that was better, and they didn't.
All right. Well,
all right. So speaking of dropping the ball, I'm leaving.
Was just actually going to raise that as a subject. So Corbin has to take off, which means I will be continuing solo. Corbin, do you have anything you want to say on your way out?
No, don't talk to me. Don't look at anything I make.
You heard it here first. Corbin says GTFO.
Yeah.
So anyway,
okay, bye.
Take it easy, man. All right. Well, yes, Diablo doing the good things for the Corbins. So yes, check out spacebar.news for Corbin's ramblings, rantings, and anti-consumer thoughts. His anti-capitalist agenda. All right, so I have only one other topic to go out on, and that is lol, true. Yes. So one final topic to go out on, and it has to do with the review that I published just a few days ago. This is for the Chipolo 1 Point. This is and I do have another review. It's actually coming, I believe, tomorrow. I could be wrong, but it looks like it's supposed. It last I saw, I think it was scheduled for tomorrow. That one will be for the one that's shaped like a credit card. Anyway, so yeah, oh, Diablo, that's kind. I disagree. I actually don't like the review format that we have. I didn't like the old one either, but yeah, it's a passable review. That's my position on it. Anyway, so yeah, I spent obviously about for this one, it was about a week. The card got about the second week out of it, and yeah, look, the trackers, they work, but there are some complications. And I actually like what The Verge did here with their sort of comment or observational thing as opposed to a full article, where they said Android's AirTag competitors are off to a poor start, but not because of the hardware, because of Google's Find My Device network. All the reviews I've read so far say it's just not finding the devices. And then they quote Android Central, where the author had said, and I'll just read this out. The next day, I marked all Bluetooth trackers as lost. Surely at least one of the 5 trackers would be found over the next few days. Shockingly, 3 whole days passed before I heard anything back. And get this, it wasn't even the network that helped me find my, quote, lost trackers. Yeah. That's so far the problem. And we've talked about this in Discord, so I don't want to like over talk the whole issue. But the simplest explanation is Google's Find My Device network has some defaults that make it not terribly effective. And I have a theory on this. I'll come back to this, and I've said this theory in a few places. I think it's fairly on point, but the issue is, in order for a device to be found, it has to be in the vicinity of, first off, it has to not be around one of the devices it's actually paired to, or a device with an account it's paired to. And once it is either marked as lost or it has been lost, even if it's not marked that way, at a certain point, other devices will notice it and basically say, "Oh, hey, yeah, you are an interesting device. We're going to start reporting where you're at." The problem is it only really wants to happen because, the default that Google picked for its Find My Device network is that devices only report the position on a device if there are several devices around that are quote unquote part of the network. So basically, this only happens when the owner hasn't been around for a while, and when the tracking tag is somewhere in a relatively high traffic location. And the people who are around it usually have to be around it for several minutes before their device even connects to it and starts recognizing this is an issue. So yeah, it's not a good default. And I recognize that this is supposedly intended to preserve privacy or personal security of some kind, but I don't think it's going to work very well. And as a result, the network at this time is basically not useless. It would be highly dishonest to say it's useless, but it's not very effective at finding a lost device. It can take anywhere from hours to more likely days. At least at the current pace, it's taking days for people to find stuff. My expectation is it's more realistically, if something gets lost in a high traffic area, it should probably take hours. That's still too long. I mean, let's say you are traveling to another country, if you're traveling to, even just traveling through an area. If you lost your bag at, let's say, a large international airport, do you want it to take hours? Maybe you were traveling through tourist stops, or you were in New York City and you went through like 6 different locations, and maybe your bags were being carried by somebody, like maybe you were part of a group and whoever was managing the group was supposed to be carrying bags. If somehow your bag or all the bags got left at a previous stop, do you want it to take hours to find it? You may have to board your plane long before your tracking tag ever even has a position. Like, that's a problem. That should not be the going status for this. But that's kind of where we're at. Anyway, I have a theory on why this is. And I don't know that it's the best theory, but it's the one that I've been feeling more and more confident about. And it's that I think Google recognized the position Apple was in. Apple launched AirTags, and Apple made it a very aggressive system, where basically if an AirTag is around its owner's device, as far as I'm aware, I think if it's around the owner's device, I believe it doesn't really broadcast. It just keeps communicating with that device. If it's around, or if it's not around the owner's device, it's not instant, but it doesn't take too long before the Apple Find My network starts like pinging it again, or finding its location. Now, I haven't used one, so I could be a little off on that, but from all the accounts that I've read, that does seem to be roughly how it behaves. So the thing is, it's pretty fast, it's pretty effective, and it works well. And it only takes one device to be around an AirTag before the locations start coming in. That's pretty good, and it works effectively. what I think happened is Google looked at that and then looked at all of the things that people were saying about AirTags in the negative light. All the stuff where they basically said, look, AirTags are being used for stalking people. They're being used for car theft rings. They're being used for like domestic abuse tactics. The list goes on and on. All of the things that AirTags were being used for turned out to be pretty problematic. And, well, not all the things, but enough things. The things that were making news. I think when Google saw that, somebody had to have said, look, there's literally no way. We can't do it. Like, if we release something just like Apple's, we're going to have the exact same problems. And everyone's going to say, oh, look at this. Google's network, it's exactly the same thing. Like, they didn't solve anything. They were multiple years late to the party, and it's the exact same problems. Or they could launch it like they did, with a puny network that is not aggressive, that's not really accomplishing anything. They can launch it that way. Now, at first, you're going to get reviews like this. Look, I think I was level-headed and moderate with my review. And in point of fact, well, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm just going to say the Chipolo people actually sent me an email saying, wow, we were really happy with the review. Thank you. So yay. I'm always happy to see when companies like reviews, especially when they're not necessarily entirely favorable. Though most of my criticisms, not all, but most, were leveled pretty clearly at Google's network as opposed to Chipolo. I think Chipolo did a pretty good job on these trackers. They're all white. They're a little boring looking, but beyond that, like, they're fine. Anyway. So getting back to the theory about Google, what I think Google was doing was basically starting off with this, the weakest but still usable version of a product. Basically support trackers, but make them sort of feckless. Give them no teeth. So they are definitely, it's completely unrealistic to ever use one of these things for the purpose of stalking somebody. It's completely implausible that you're ever going to be able to use it for like a car theft ring or any sort of stuff like that. That's just not going to work. They're too slow and too imprecise to really be useful for any of that. And as a result, what I think is probably going to happen is people are going to people are going to review them as they have been, basically saying, look, they're not useless. If you already know roughly where a tracker is, you can still get proximity detection. You can still pop on audio alerts and have a good chance of finding something if you're close enough to it. But finding it remotely, good luck. You're probably not going to get a lot of value out of that. I think that's the starting position Google wanted, because nobody is going to look at this and say this is a danger. No one's going to say that this is a threatening tracker. The word tracker almost seems inappropriate given the current state. They're smart tags. That's it. But then let's wait 6 months. Let's wait 12 months. I mean, look, my prediction, well, I'll say this later. But say 6 to 12 months from now, I think we're going to look back on these and say, okay, that was a first week or a first month kind of thing. In a few weeks or a few months, these are going to start getting better. And how that happens could take a few different forms. I believe it was either Austin or Hoopy. One of them said, and I fully agree with this. As more people are setting up new phones, this is going to be one of the questions that they're asked right away. It's just going to be one of the many questions in the default process, and they're probably just going to tap right through it and at least use the default setting, or some people might even promote it to the full power version, where you don't need multiple devices around. There is also, I think, as time goes by, some people who are going to sort of realize that maybe going to the upgraded setting is more effective, and it's better for most people. By the way, I've turned it on my phones. And I think there's probably also going to be maybe some changes to the algorithm. They're a bit more aggressive. And I wouldn't really put it past Google to find other ways to maybe promote or encourage people to choose the more aggressive settings. And I could be wrong, but I think in 6 months or so, we're going to see a different looking network. We're going to see this not get to the same level as AirTags necessarily, but I think we're going to see it get a lot better. And my reasoning for this is that this is sort of the same way that things work with app development, or this is the thing I've been comparing it to repeatedly. It's like asking any app developer to take a feature out of an app, or rather any app developer wanting to take a feature out of an app. You can't do it. I mean, you can try, you can certainly do it. If you own the app, you can absolutely do it. But if you take a feature out of an app, even a feature that your statistics show clearly nobody uses, or such a tiny minority of people use at all, if ever, what you're going to find is the moment you take that feature out, every single person who has any inclination at all is going to scream bloody murder about it. They hate to see the thing that they use get worse. Now, look at Apple. Apple said that they were going to do some stuff about stalking and theft and the various other ways that AirTags are being used. And Apple basically lied. They added a few things to make it a little bit easier to notice if you're being stalked by one. But other than that, they really did not do much. Apple was not a good Samaritan in this way. And you look, the reality is it's for the reasons I just stated. If Apple took those things away, people would get outraged that all of a sudden AirTags got worse. That's not good for Apple. It's, realistically for the people who use AirTags, it's not good for them. So yeah, that's understandable. But for the people who need it to be better, it sucks. Well, here's Google basically in a position of saying, well, we just launched the worst version of this thing. When we make it 20% better next month, or when it gets 20% better next month, maybe people will notice it, maybe they won't. Sure. When it's 6 months from now and people are saying, oh yeah, no, I can use it the way it's intended to be used. Well, who's going to be saying what about this? Who's going to sit down and say, oh my God, it's a tool for stalkers? Nobody. I don't get me wrong. I'm sure somebody will say that, but most people won't. You're not going to have big news articles that these are being used for this stuff because, well, one, Apple already ate that pill. And two, I dare say more importantly, it will have happened slowly. It's going to happen very slowly. It won't happen overnight like it did with AirTags. It's going to happen over 6 months or longer, probably a year. And that's the thing that works for Google. They get to launch this product, and it gets to slowly become a thing that is useful, and people who want it to be useful are going to be happy about that. They're going to see that and recognize it and go, oh yeah, okay, this is finally the product that we expected. This is what we wanted, and we're happy about that. And everybody else is just going to look at it and, you know, not think anything of it. There will be some people who, yes, call it out, but they're going to call it out a few at a time. And I this is putting maybe the darkest spin on it, but I always refer to this as the frog in the frying pan situation. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, there's a old saying or parable. I really don't know what to call it, but it's said that if you drop a frog onto a hot frying pan, which don't do, that's horrible, but if you were to do it, the frog is going to immediately jump out. But if you set a frog in a frying pan and turn the heat on low, and the heat just slowly rises, the frog will just sit there and cook. Which again, don't do that. That's horrible. But the thing is, it does an idiom. Yeah, that sounds right. It does illustrate the point of when things happen slowly, people don't notice the bad thing. But sometimes people notice good things that happen slowly. And I think Google is kind of taking advantage of that. And look, I don't want to say it's in a good way or a bad way. I'm not trying to paint Google as a villain here. I'm trying to say I think that this was intentional. I think it was smart. Google did the smart thing here by launching a product that is effectively kind of terrible right now. And I'm not talking about the tracking tags themselves, but the Find My Device network. They launched this thing that's kind of terrible right now because it doesn't do the thing that it was supposed to do. But in 6 months to a year, it will. And by then, you know, people will still get the tags because they still work for their intended purpose. They're just not very good at half of that intended purpose. They're not good for remote finding. But as long as you can get into the same room or sometimes even the same building, you can still find them. And that's good enough. Like that's still a reason to get them. And what other option do you have? If you're an Android user, what are you going to do? Use the Tile network, which has a terrible reputation already for stalking its users, and sharing data and being hacked and everything else. But the Tile network is not that particularly big. Chipolo also runs its own network, and that's not very big. So does Pebblebee. These are all companies that were making trackers before, and look, their networks are tiny. There's also Samsung's Galaxy tags, which, hey, all the Samsung devices are automatically part of this network. You can opt out, I believe, but I don't think they even ask you. I think they just turn it on. And Samsung's network is more aggressive. It's actually basically just like Apple's, which makes it pretty effective. I mean, it's actually, I would argue it's more effective right now than what Google's Find My Device network does. But how's it going to compare? First off, do you want to get a Samsung phone? That a lot of people don't. But moreover, oh, by the way, I should note, the Galaxy tags only work with Samsung phones. You cannot download an app to make it work. You can't sideload anything or hack anything. You have to use a Samsung phone. So all that said, like at this stage, if you're an Android user, you're probably just going to get in. You're probably going to go for the Find My Device network. Logically, and that assumes that you kind of understand this ecosystem and where it's at, but logically, if you're not going to go with Samsung's thing, your next best bet is this, because all the others honestly aren't any better. You know, They could be if you have a bunch of people around you that happen to use the same tracking tags, but most people don't. So realistically, your best bet is really just to go with Google's Find My Device network. That being said, in 6 months, they might be good. 6 months to a year. They might be good. They might be really good. But for right now, they're not going to be. And I think that is Google's intended outcome, because it protects them from the really, really bad press that Apple's still chewing on today, and will continue to be lambasted over. Meanwhile, Google can slowly roll this out, and in 6 months to a year, they can brag that they did it right. They can brag that they protected security and privacy and everything else. Meanwhile, they're probably going to work very similarly to AirTags by the time this is all done. And that's good enough for Google. That's the thing. It's good enough for Google. We'll see how it plays out. I could be very wrong on this, but I don't think I am. And in fairness, because I have criticized other people of doing this before, so I'm just admitting I'm kind of doing it myself now. There are journalists out there who have made predictions. They're literally like they try to paint themselves as prophets, because they make predictions that literally could not go another way. And at this point, predicting that Google's Find My Device network will get better in a year is like predicting that the sun will rise again in a year and go down at the end of the day in a year. Like, unless there is no planet left, this is how it's going to be. It's Google's Find My Device network really can't get much worse than it is right now. It's only got up. It can only go on an upward trajectory. So I don't think I'm predicting something that's even hard to predict. But I'm predicting the reasoning. And that reasoning may or may not be good, but I think I think it makes more sense than that they launched it just aimlessly, not realizing that it was going to be this bad. And I know, even as I say that, anyone listening is going, but that would be kind of a thing Google does. Like, Google does launch a lot of stuff that doesn't work as intended. It's broken on day one, and it just stays broken for a long time, and eventually they fix it. Yeah, that's true. But sometimes there are good reasons for that. I don't think there's a good reason for this one. Especially because, don't forget, this is launching a year late. Literally a year late. Little bit of pointless backstory, but kind of funny. When I first raised, so at AP, I was actually the person who raised the issue, basically saying, hey, I'm looking through our tracker and I don't see anyone on the list to review Chipotle or Pebblebee. What's up with that? Can we reach out and like get this sorted? At the time, I wasn't even planning to be one of the reviewers for it, but I wanted to at least ask about it and get that ball rolling. Because weirdly, we really were. I don't know why. Somehow we missed that. So we were one of the last companies to contact them about getting review units. And sure enough, they responded and said, yeah, we'd love to work with you. We'll let you know. And then it was radio silence. We didn't hear anything from them for a really long time. And eventually we got a couple of press releases, but nothing too special. And then all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, hey, we've got review units going out soon. You good for this? And they sent out the review units. I was then contacted by so internally at AP, we've gone through some we'll say some staffing changes, some management changes. And the person who has fairly recently been tasked as the new review manager, he messaged me saying, "Hey, so yeah, I tried reaching out to Chipolo. I wanted to I wanted to set up some review units, and they said they already sent something to you. Did you do this? Did you do this on your own, or did you get permission from someone? Because we don't have any record of it." And there's a whole long explanation for why that is. And I was like, yeah, no, I definitely got permission on this. And then I had to look up when that permission was. It was in July of last year. And it started actually in June. I originally got permission in June, and then, or rather, well, I was kind of tasked with it. I was asked to do it. And yeah, then it was in July when we had the email basically saying, "Okay, great. We've got your address. Thank you. We'll send stuff as soon as it's ready." And then, a year later, or let's say 11 months and 2 weeks later, they're like, "Hey, it's time. Here's your review units." That is truly the longest I've ever waited for a review unit. Though, well, okay, that's half true. Now that I think about it, I technically am still waiting for I know this is never coming, but I am technically still waiting for a review unit from QNAP. But whatever. I don't think that one's ever coming. So yeah, the thing is, Google has had a year to work on this network. You can't tell me they haven't run some tests. You can't tell me that they didn't figure out that this wasn't going to be very, very good at remote tracking at this stage. And the only way that makes sense to me is if what they were really doing was trying to minimize the first review cycle. They're trying to prevent the first review cycle from turning into a, "Oh my god, Google screwed up on the thing that Apple screwed up on too." I think they're trying to avoid that. They don't want a bunch of bad press on this that then turns people into thinking that Google's doing evil things again. They want the press to be, "Oh yeah, this thing kind of sucks, but hey, you can still use it. It's probably still your best option, even if it's not very good." That's it. Like, that's the worst anyone's going to say about it. And again, like I said, in a few months, all they have to do is flip a few switches, go with a more aggressive algorithm, and maybe change the defaults in the setup process so it starts saying that you're part of the more aggressive network. Yeah, and in a few months or a year, all of a sudden, this is a pretty good thing. Everyone's going to be praising it, except for a rare few people who are saying it's evil. But those people aren't going to be heard. And every time I say this, believe me, I feel that little bit of a twinge, like, yeah, this sounds like an evil thing to do. But it's also the only way that this is ever going to really compete with Apple's product. And it doesn't have to be... Is the audio popping? I can't tell if it is or not. Doesn't show up in the audio audio feedback, but I can't tell. I think Carson has said that he's had that problem a few times, and for him, I think it was always solved with a refresh of the page. But I don't know for sure. It's popping off. Nice. To be fair, I'm gonna be done pretty quick, so actually, I don't know. I probably am done anyway. I think I've probably repeated my point enough times. Anyway, yeah, what this amounts to is, I think we're getting really close to the point where these trackers, like, give it a couple more months, because there will be more reviews, there will be more cycling through, and in a few months, once the reviews are really done, I have a feeling Google will turn up the heat a little bit on this and make these things actually do the thing that they're intended to do, that they're supposed to do. There's by the way, if anyone's looking at this review and you notice these big white spaces, that is for videos. The videos will not show up if you have the ads turned off. So here's one of them. Oh, okay, I don't actually want to sit through the ads. Anyway, yeah, if you turn off the ads on the website, then you're only going to see big blank spaces where these videos are supposed to be. Anyway, I did one video that is a setup process for the actually, I guess I'm gonna have to let that play through. Can I mute it? There, good, at least. Yeah, if you're using an ad blocker, you're not gonna notice this. Anyway, so yeah, the big blank spaces are videos, and I put 2 of them in there. One of them is the setup process, which what I wanted to highlight is that it only takes like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on how much time you take to read. Let's see. So this video, yeah, 49 seconds, and this includes some extra steps. Like, the setup process is really fast. You basically just have to press the button on the tracker while your phone screen is on, and then you get a couple of pop-ups where you've got to press the button a couple of times, and it's paired. Like, that's how fast it goes. It takes no time at all, and it's just ridiculously easy. So yeah, I think it was on 31 seconds when I showed the time. So yeah, I mean, this is really quick. It's really efficient. Like I said before, like, this is the ideal scenario for if you're walking through an airport. Okay, of course it immediately cycles another ad in. If you're going through an airport and you just need something you can throw in your luggage or your wallet or purse or whatever real quick, you can buy one of these things and have it good to go in 30 seconds. It takes as long to get it out of the package, assuming you're not just shredding the package open. It takes about as long to get it out of the package as it takes to set it up, which is great. The other video that I did, okay, we're just gonna hide that again because I don't want a copyright strike because I'm playing an ad for something. Anyway, let's there we go. Yeah, so this one's about a minute long, and it just shows popping the Chipolo 1 point open so that you can do a battery replacement. I didn't actually pop the battery out of place. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, I like the fact that this is just a CR2032 battery that you can just pop in and out. Like, that's a great thing. It's easy enough to get open as long as you've got something you can use to pry open that starting point, and it's easy enough to snap back together. So, Ryan Reynolds, we love you. Maybe not that many of you though. Anyway, so yeah, I do think the tags are pretty good. I don't have big objections with how they work. I think they hit the right points. Now it's Google's turn. Like, literally, ball is in Google's court kind of a situation. They just have to get their act together and start figure out the settings and the algorithm that's going to give them a good usable network, and that's pretty much it. And speaking of pretty much it, that's all I got. Code Groru went. Nice. But let's see. Okay. Sorry, doing a quick skim of comments, making sure I didn't miss something. But yeah. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, that is all the topics that I came prepared with. This turned into a weird and unusually long speech about the tracking network, but I think it hits all the points. So, with that, I think that is it for this week. But I will see all of you in Discord. And thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation. For those that would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to those who do already. Diablo, David, Curvy Mermaid, Austin, and Carson. Yes, I changed up the order just slightly, and it made it so much harder in my mind to do. But I will be back this weekend for some gaming, as usual. And I will see you all in the next one. Good night, everybody.